Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. And with the fifth pick in the 2023 draft, the Detroit Pistons choose Ausar Thompson. And that is just my best guess at who the Pistons are going to pick tomorrow night. And I'm not thrilled with it, but I think he has so much potential and he's got a lot of things going for him. But I just know after hearing a lot of things, a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation going on. There's rumors that Cam Whitmore had not a very good workout with the Pistons. Also, there's some new information, I guess, being leaked that some of his medicals did not come back like normal. So he's sliding in the draft, supposedly. Of course, it's all theoretical about who's sliding and who's not. It's up that, And Ausar Thompson is rising. I know that the Thompson twins, again, they are fabulous athletes, two of the best athletes, not just in the draft, but probably they will be in the NBA as soon as they get in it. I get a kick out of it. I wish I had a penny for every time somebody said that Amen Thompson is going to be in the top 1% of the athletes in the NBA. Everybody says that. But anyway, Ausar, he's not a good shooter. And again, these guys people are impressed. They're blown away with how mature they are. And I think they are. But the thing that concerns me is they're 20 years old. And again, Cam Whitmore is 18. And you just look at how players improve. Kobe Buffkin from Michigan, he's a fast riser, and I think he's going to go up real high, and he's moved way up the draft board. And so is Jordan Hawkins, who's a great shooter. But those guys weren't even, again, on the radar when they were freshmen, and now they're sophomores. Now they're really, I think they're going to go pretty high in the draft. But back to Ausar, I think he's going to be a sensational defensive player. We need wings that can defend. I know Troy said that from the very beginning when he started talking about the draft that we needed wings. And I think Ausar certainly has the potential to be a phenomenal defender, not just a good NBA defender. He's not there yet. He won't be there. He's been guarding 16 and 17 and 18-year-old kids that aren't that good in the overtime elite. And so it's going to be, I think, quite an adjustment for him. But he has the size, the wingspan, the athleticism, and he's a hard worker. But again, back to what I said before, these guys are 20 and they're hard workers and they've been in the gym constantly and they care. And I watched a little documentary on them, and they, their dad had them working out from the time they were like 6 or 7 years old, and they would run 2 miles dribbling left-handed, and they would just do it every day, and they would do 200 push-ups and 200 sit-ups, and they practiced basketball all the time, and they were destined to be these great basketball players. But my question is, so their dad trained them from a very young age. They played basketball constantly their whole life. They've been training their whole life. After they lived in California, they moved to Florida to play in some elite high school, and they won the Florida State Championship in overtime. And so they've been just getting lots of extra training, lots of special attention, and they just live in the gym. And they care about it. They're conscientious. They're aware of themselves. They know they need to be better shooters. But here they are. They're 20, and they still can't shoot. They're not even average shooters. So that's just a concern. We have a problem with shooting. I mean, I'm very confident Cade will be a way better shooter this year. I think Ivy showed in the last year he's just got to almost maintain what he did the second half of last year, but I'm hoping that he can get even better. If we keep Bogey, he's a great shooter, but we just don't have shooters on our roster. And so to have, Duran's not a shooter, and if Cade can't shoot and Ivy's just okay shooter, then, then we bring in Ausar, and you got all those guys that got to play together, and they can't shoot, and that is a huge problem in the NBA. NBA teams know they just play off you. They go under picks, they sag and help. It's just a whole different game when you can't shoot, and then for us to have take another guy that can't shoot that really is another guard. But he, of course, that's the beauty of Ausar and Amen is that they can play defensively. They can guard ones, twos, and threes really great, I'm sure. And I'm sure they'll probably be able to guard fours eventually. So, but why I think they're going to take Ausar is because he had a great workout, and I've seen him at like 10th on a lot of draft boards and mock drafts and things. So, it's really interesting to me. But here's the big thing. Troy, in his pre-draft press conference yesterday, said, I like the long ball. I'm not bunting or trying to slap it into the short center. I take a big swing, especially if I only have one chance at it. So I'm thinking when he says he only has one chance at it, I mean, we had the 31st pick, but we got the 5th pick. So he's got only one chance to get a great player. And I hope, and I think Troy's partway, what he's saying here is, we hope we don't get to pick this high again. So I think that, he says, if I have 3 chances, okay, I might bunt one, but one chance at it, I'm going to go for the big fly. That's me. And so, again, he could trade back and maybe get 3 draft picks, and he could take one sure bet, safe pick, and then still try to take some guys with big upside. So, but my thinking is the guys with upside are Cam Whitmore and Amen and Ausar Thompson. And I think that Jarris Walker, he is not big upside. He's not a great offensive player. He doesn't have that much potential. His shot doesn't look that good. He is a really good passer, sensational defender, but not just even a fast, quick twitch athlete. He doesn't take the ball to the basket. I talked about that before. He hardly attacked the rim when he was in college, even though he's got this big, strong body with a long wingspan. And so based on that intel, based on Troy, it's not intel, it's Troy saying that. If he's telling the truth, then that would mean that he would take one of those guys and not take somebody like Anthony Black. So Anthony Black is another great guy that if I were a coaching man, Anthony Black is my guy. He is smart. He is unselfish. He is a hard worker. He busts his butt on defense. He cares about everything he does. He's almost unselfish to a fault, but he's not got huge upside. I think he's going to be a real good NBA player. So there's rumors that some teams might want to trade up and get him with the 5th pick, Utah. There's some speculation that they might want to do that, trade to the Pistons and get him with the 5th. So I don't know if they will do that. The Jazz have the 9th and the 16th picks, so that would be interesting. And especially if they took him, that means one of those other guys would fall. But again, my dream is Cam Whitmore still my favorite. I'm just shocked that he went to the combine. Cam Whitmore did, and he tested 41-inch vertical, one of the highest in all the rookies, and nobody's talked about any injury, and so now there's never been a whisper about it, and so all of a sudden this is just like leaked yesterday or today, and so I don't know if there's any credence to it, but we'll see on draft night where he drafts. In ESPN he fell to like 9th on their mock draft, and he was 5th. So but anyway, my second choice, even for the number 5 pick, is Taylor Hendricks, and he's the phenomenal shooter, the second best shooter next to Brandon Miller, and maybe Brandon Miller will slip to us. Maybe something will happen. I don't think so, but anything's possible. So if he trades back, obviously it's the Pacers. The Pacers made a trade with the Nuggets because the Pacers had too many picks, and they don't want to take in like 6 rookies or 5 rookies or 4 rookies all in one year. So they traded back, and they got one of the Nuggets picks in a later year. But we could trade still to the Pacers. So they still have 7 and 26. So with 7, now you're talking with me. I would maybe roll the dice on that one, because if I'm not going to be able to get Cam Whitmore, I would want Taylor Hendricks, and so there's a real good chance that he'll be available at 7. So no guarantee though. It was looking like Jarris Walker. Everybody was saying Jarris Walker was going to be the pick. He was the front runner, but I still everybody was believing in that until I think Troy came out and said this thing about the big swing, and so I think that makes people wonder, more about what's going on with that he wouldn't go for a guy that was just a safe single or bunt. So anyway, Troy said we're going to stick to our ethos and make sure that we get the best player that fits us in every way. The locker room, on the floor, in the community, etc. We have a good nucleus of young guys who do that. And I just always remember what Troy said when he tried to recruit Monty Williams. He said about saying that we have one of the best locker rooms in the NBA, or he'll put ours up against anybody's. And I agree with him. And we will continue to answer that. Fit over position, etc. We'll do what's best for the team. We like the players. And he said that he really likes the players that are going to be available at 5. He said the top 5 to 7 are valuable, and after that, after number 1, anything goes. That everything is uncertain after the first pick. He said we feel good about the value of 5, and there's a lot of banter and talk back and forth on a lot of picks. We feel good about being at 5 and the value there. So obviously, all these picks, all these trades are made right as the pick goes up. So you're on the clock, and that's when the deals are done, is when one team's on the clock. Especially, obviously, if you're trading up, you want to make sure that the guy you want is still on the board. Otherwise, you're not going to make the trade. So, but they have to have these things. They've had to have discussions prior to this. They're not going to just all of a sudden make a phone call, with 2 minutes to go and construct a deal. So these deals are talked about. Like Troy said, that there's been a lot of bantering back and forth about a lot of picks. And so there's going to be some things probably in place. I like that Troy said that Monty's been a big part of everything, the interviews, on court, workouts, watching film, and he said he's eager to have Monty's use Monty as a resource. And it's always good to have another person in the room to look at things differently. I always appreciated that as a coach, having different people that have a different perspective. He said he has a great relationship in the league, great relationships in the league. We hope to leverage that at the appropriate time. He and I see things the same way when it comes to players and the type of players we want to bring in. We're all about the same things. So, of course, that's why Troy wanted Monty, and that's why one of the reasons why Monty wanted to come to Detroit was because he does feel like he believes in Troy's vision and what Troy type of players he wants. So, the new NBA, I talked about this, I think, last week, the new collective bargaining agreement that is making it harder for high-spending teams to improve or even to retain their roster. So, that's going to give us an opportunity. And Troy, I talked about it, I think, one of my last 2 pod episodes, and Troy said it at his press conference. He says there's thought that teams may start looking at their rosters and compare and how they're going to play out their contracts, how players are going to play out their contracts. There could be some vulnerable situations, and there already are, that we could take advantage of. We want to be prepared and working hard to make sure that if those opportunities are afforded, that we are there. They are definitely have some work already done and thought about those deals ahead of time. And I've talked about this. I even think there's opportunities for the Pistons to get some good young players from like Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's got 1 million draft picks, and a lot of these teams are now kicking them down the road, and they're trying to consolidate some picks and trade back for future drafts because they have too many in the next couple years. So the Pistons could take advantage. When Oklahoma City, they're great at drafting players, and so they're going to have to unload some of their young players, and so we could be ready to swoop in and take those guys too. So earlier today, we thought that Kristaps Porzingis was going to opt into his contract and be traded to the Celtics and in a three-way deal with Matthew Brogdon going to the Clippers, and the Celtics would send out uh, Gallinari, and the Clippers would send Marcus Morris and draft compensation to the Wizards. But that deal fell through. So now it's going to be, I think Porzingis has till midnight tonight, and this is Wednesday, to opt into his contract. He can also decline it, opt out, and then he's a free agent. So I did hear a rumor that Golden State would be interested in trading their third pick. Portland would trade their third pick to Golden State for Klay Thompson. Boy, I would do that in a heartbeat if I were Golden State. I wouldn't do that if I were Portland. I would trade Dame if I were Portland, and I would try to go young, and I would try to build around Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons and that whoever that third pick is, if it's whether it's Scoot or whether it's Brandon Miller, and then see what draft picks or young players I can get for Lillard, and that would be a great start to a rebuild, because Clay's not getting any better, and he's gonna expect a lot of money, and so I just don't feel good about that. So anyway, so here we are, the night before the draft. I've been studying this draft like crazy. Like I said, it's fascinating to me that all these people, including myself, study the draft, and we every little change that happens in the mocks, and every little bit of information that's divulged, we just jump all over it and care so much about it when we don't really have any say. All these things are speculation, all these mock drafts, even though there's quite a bit of consensus in a lot of the mock drafts, but it is not going to go that way, and on draft night it never does. So I just know that if we get that fifth pick, I will just tell for on the record I want Cam Whitmore still, and there could be reasons. If I were in Troy Weaver's shoes and I knew some intel about him and his attitude or how he worked or what, or if he had some medical issue, I might not want him. But then I would want Taylor Hendricks. And if I could trade, I would be interested in trading to the Pacers if I could trade back to 7. But I'm not sure many other places I would want to trade. The Wizards have the 8th pick. That could still be good. I still would be too concerned that even at 9, that I'm sure that Hendricks won't be there. If he was there still at 9, and all of a sudden that pick was up on the board, and I could trade for that pick, I would do it in a heartbeat. So yeah, it'll be interesting what happens. I've seen Jarris Walker. I think on ESPN he's mocked at 10, which, like I said, the mocks don't really mean anything. All that really matters is which teams pick which players. So we're going to get a good young player, and hopefully we pick the right one. And hopefully, like I said, I just get concerned when guys can't shoot, and I just look at our boy Killian, and he's not the athlete that Ausar Thompson is, not even close. But he's a great passer. I mean, I guess Ausar is a really good passer too, but he still would be a great player. Killian would be a great player for us, and at least a backup point guard if he could shoot like he did for that month and a half in the middle of the season. But that's not who he's been, and he's cared about shooting, and he's worked on shooting, and he's worked with coaches, and he's been diligent, and he still can't shoot. And Ben Simmons is known his whole life he's not a shooter. So that's why I hesitate when I can get somebody like Taylor Hendricks that can shoot, and I do believe in Cam Whitmore shooting. So we just got to hope that something good happens. We still are in play for the 10th pick. We could trade for, we could trade, like I said, the Jazz, I think, are going to maybe want to consolidate some picks. They have 9 and 16. I just don't like. There's going to be good players at 9. I'm not thrilled exactly, overjoyed, who's going to be there at 16. There's going to be somebody with potential. But the thing about the draft is there's going to be guys that are picked 16th and later that are going to be better than some of the guys that finish in the top 7. It happens every year. There's hardly any year where even in the top 3 picks that all 3 players end up to be like multi-time All-Stars. It's happened some drafts, but not very many. So buckle your seatbelts, and I hope You're not as anxious as I am for tomorrow night. But anyway, do something nice for somebody today. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. It makes a big difference for me. And leave a thumbs up. And go Pistons.